As we think about data privacy and the process that makes the most sense for organizations, I try not to have things be too over-processed, but having a structure in place is important. First, what we want to do is figure out the regulatory landscape. What applies to your organization? This varies based on the industry that you're in as well as your geography. So if you operate in Europe, there's many different regulations that you have to follow versus if you operate just in the US or any other parts of the world. So understanding that global perspective, that regulatory perspective. And second, I would really encourage most organizations to get together to understand all the different stakeholders that are needed. So if you've got marketing folks, if you've got compliance and legal folks, oftentimes you want to bring in the technology side of the house as well as anybody in operations to kind of make it all work together. So those are the four core departments, and you bring all those folks together, understand all their interests. Marketing often wants the most data that they can have. Compliance and legal often want the most protections against data. So figuring out that balance, and then technologists wanting to have simple, easy, integrated abilities to have all of the tech work between marketing and the privacy function. And then you've also got the operations side that wants to make sure everything's running smoothly. So bringing together all the different stakeholders. Then what you want to do is you want to assess everybody's interests. So you want to figure out who needs what and how you're going to get there, and then figuring out where you land. So you may land on a more stringent data privacy perspective. If you're operating in finance or you're operating in healthcare, oftentimes those sorts of industries have different higher degrees of regulation, and consumers also have higher standards for how their data is protected versus a retail store where you may not care as much if they have your information on the type of shoe that you bought. So it largely depends on the type of organization you're in. So then weighing those benefits, those pros and cons, and then coming up with an overarching strategy that the stakeholders can agree upon on what your stance is going to be on data privacy as an organization. So really setting up all of those stakeholders, coming up with a steering committee, say, okay, we're going to have representation from each of these departments, and then collectively we're all going to make decisions together. So then what you want to do is you will figure out what technology you need, what systems you need in place based on the data privacy framework that you come up with based on what you decided from your stakeholder output. Coming up with that framework and then implementing it, quite frankly, like enabling this data privacy framework to be on your website, be forward facing amongst your customers, and then figuring out how to actually carry it out. When someone says, I want to opt out, how you honor that, how that follows through into what you do in marketing and how you treat that data. Lastly, a big thing that I'm a huge proponent of is training and enabling your team. So the last thing I want to do is leave you with this strategic plan and say, okay, go do it, figure it out. We really want to make sure that we help you come up with the plan, everybody's bought in, carry out the plan, and then I work with your team to make sure they can actually do the day-to-day of it and do it going forward so that we can exit and come back when you need us.